Welcome to eTeacher Pakistan webinar series. The eTeacher Pakistan webinar series is an initiative of the eTeacher Plus program for Pakistan, which is sponsored by the Regional English Language Office at the US Embassy Islamabad and is locally implemented by Evolution. The eTeacher Plus program for Pakistan provides virtual professional development opportunities for the English language teachers across Pakistan. These opportunities include global online courses, massive open online courses, webinar series, and alumni engagement activities. The global online courses are 8 weeks online courses offered by the accredited universities in America. These courses are offered in each quarter, while massive open online courses are offered throughout the year. Once the teacher completes the global online courses, they become part of the huge alumni network of the eTeacher Plus program for Pakistan. If you wish to gain more knowledge about the RELO programs and upcoming opportunities, please keep following www.facebook.com/RELOPakistan. To know more about the eTeacher Plus program for Pakistan, visit www.evolution.com.pk/eTeacher. Today we are here with the 7th webinar of the eTeacher Webinar Series 3. These webinars are helping teachers in transitioning to online teaching. Today's webinar is going to focus on tips and activities you can use in engaging students online. Our presenter today is Reem Amin. She is an eTeacher alumna who has recently completed Integrating Critical Thinking Skills into English Language Classrooms, which was offered by University of Oregon. She's an experienced teacher with a vast experience of teaching English as a secondary language for more than 23 years to students in Pakistan and outside Pakistan. She believes that in recent pandemic, learners need to be fully engaged by focusing on their social and emotional needs through integrated cultural English language teaching. Today's webinar is going to enable participants to develop better understanding of the importance of student engagement in online classrooms. While the presenter is also going to share with you tips and activities you can use in your English language classrooms to engage your students and to enhance their interaction during the online classrooms. Now let's listen to what Reem Amin has to share with us today.
Engaging online learning has been a challenging experience both for the teacher and the learner, where overnight the ability to self-regulate learning became limited because the students were not in the traditional structures of the school building. Sadly, students didn't connect. It was a lack of structure, support from the text that they were learning. Teachers were subject matter experts, but they weren't trained in online learning and teaching. Transference of an in-person learning experience to an online learning platform was and is challenging. This is where I want to actually help and bring and share some ideas for engaging online students. The content that I want to share are some AFL strategies and plenaries which can be used in the beginning or the end of a lesson. Add a morning smile. Engage the learner. Early in the morning, when the students log in just to give their attendance, they don't feel engaged. They're yawning, they're sleepy. That's where you need to bring in a motivational thought or an image or a probing question. The rise and fall of a voice of a teacher actually engages the learner. Figurative language is one great way to actually engage a student and his learning. The 7 days of the week can actually be given a name. For example, similes can be taught, metaphors can be taught through all this experience of the days of the week. It's a power of 5. So ask the students, what we learned today is like, ask them what was it like, and ask them to do it in a form of a simile. If Monday was a song or a color or a film, what would it be? Get them to share their own personal favorites. Give your days of the week a name. Truthful Tuesday. So share something truthful. Wise Up Wednesday. Share words of wisdom. Thoughtful Thursday. Share a thoughtful thought for Thursday. Share a distorted image or a figure, put some dots on a line on your screen and say, figure it out. So let them actually take those dots or those lines and make something creative like mountains, an apple, pineapple. Get them to describe themselves as a metaphor. What 5 words would you use to describe a story or a character and justify your choice? So if you have a book or a novel that you want to bring in, you can ask them to help them to recall and revise by sharing what was the story's, what was the character's name, and how would they describe him. Tall, short, colors, the sweaters or the clothes that the person was wearing. This is one good way for the kids to actually open up their storybooks. Share a funny image. Every student will actually smile and have a laughter, and they would actually burst out laughing, say, when you share a funny image with them. Get the kids to fill up virtual jars, a gratitude jar. Fill them with a memory. Ask them, engage them, talk to them. They have so many things to share. Give them those special moments in the beginning of a lesson, in the middle of a lesson, or at the end of a lesson. Get them to share words of gratitude or how the lesson left them feeling today. I used to think, give them words, so let them engage and say it out. I used to think, but then I learned, so now so get them to feel about the whole lesson and fill that gratitude jar. Then let them feel that they can take ownership of their learning. Show me. Let students show your answers on their mini whiteboards. Older students can type in the chat box or use Google Jamboards. Teacher plans the questions, okay? She knows the areas of focus. She explains the learning objectives to the class. The pupils can actually use their mini whiteboards. They can show the response in words or through drawings. They can just pick up the mini whiteboard and they can draw on it and they can share it. If the teacher is teaching them topics on nutrition, on health, on sequencing sentences, putting the sentence in the correct order, placing it, these are great ways of actually showing the students, and they can show the teacher in the mini whiteboard. Give me 5, the power of 5. Get the students to draw on a piece of paper, their hands, their fingers, and get them engaged through that. Thumbs up. What have I learned? Get them to pick up a color pencil. So maybe they can color over here. Thumbs up. What have I learned? What do I understand? A pointing finger. Let them point. What skills have I learned today? What skills have I used today? Middle finger. Which skills did I find difficult today? So they can share the difficulties in the classroom. The ring finger. How did I show commitment to today's learning? Who did I help today? Peer support and peer collaboration is highly important for online learning. Pinky promise, get them to show the small finger. What will I make sure I remember from today's lesson? I'm going to make sure that I don't forget that. Maybe the student keeps forgetting to put capital letters, keep forgetting to put a full stop at the end of a sentence. So the power of 5. High five, we all love to do that. All kids do. So this is a great way to get the kids to actually write short story or narratives. Characters. They can talk about the characters. They can talk about, the story, where it takes place, the location of the story, what's happening in the beginning, middle, or the end of the story. They can talk about using time connectives. Firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly, fifthly, or at the end, in the last. Or they can start by saying first, next, then, last, and finally. So this is the power of 5. And they can actually use the power of 5 for non-fictional writing as well. Finger rule. What topic did we learn today? What are the facts that we want to share? Fact 1, 2, 3. And at the end, I wonder, what is it that they wonder about the text? Hand signals. Perfect way for managing online class discussions and offline class discussions. I agree. I disagree. I have a question. I'd like to add to that. I can paraphrase this victory sides. I know where to put a capital letter, where to put a comma, where to put a full stop, or I can write a complete sentence using nouns, verbs, and articles. A biopoint, a great way to have the students recall, revise, and remember any characters in a book that they're doing. For example, this is a sample that I want to pick up. This is a grade 3 novel at the moment. So the kids can actually recall and revise and remember the characters. They can write in the first line, it has 10 lines in it. So they can write in the first line the first name, and the second line, 3 or 4 adjectives that describe the person. In line 3, an important relationship. Line 4, 2 or 3 things, people, or ideas that the person loved. Line 5, 3 feelings the person experienced. Line 7, accomplishments. Line 8, 2 or 3 things that the person wanted to see or happen or wanted to experience. Line 9, his or her residence. Line 10, last name. So these are small samples that I want to share. One is actually by a grade 2 teacher sharing an example, and the other example is actually by a student in year 4. Quick write. Get the kids to actually explain the topic. It could be in a form of a letter, an email, or a WhatsApp message. So this is one way of actually having the students utilize 21st century skills in the classroom. Make a postcard. Nobody writes postcards anymore. Give them a graphic organizer. Get them to actually pick up a piece of paper, same piece of paper. At the end, they can just write 3 or 4 lines, draw a stamp, and share it with their friend online. Explain the topic in a form of a postcard. Get the kids to write again without pausing. What confuses them about the topic? The more the lesson is engaged, the more the teacher knows about it, the easier it will be for the teacher to reach out to the students' learning. These are small examples that I want to share for students who are in grade 3, 4, and 5. Think, pair, share. A lot of online platforms and tools that the schools are using have breakout rooms. Utilize those breakout rooms. Put learners in breakout rooms and give them activities. Group them in pairs or groups of 3 or 4 to share their work with each other. As peer review, peer collaboration, peer support is highly important, especially with online learning. Misconception check. Kids have what we call the muddiest moment. They're not clear. So ask them, what confuses them? Get them to write in a sentence. Again, use a mini whiteboard, a piece of paper, type in the chat box. They can write in the copy, a reflection book at the end. So I believe that because I'm confused by that. Ask them, what was the most interesting part of the class? What was the most least interesting part of the class? I was bored. Ask them why were they disengaged in the classroom? Maybe behind the laptop, they saw something even more interesting than the lesson. Maybe there was an argument going on between the mom and the maid. Maybe the little brother was having a fight. Maybe he was eating an ice cream. So what got the kids bored in class? Color pencils, color cards, and crayons. Kids can actually enjoy doing this. Sometimes teachers miss out on the students online. They miss out on the hands. They miss out on listening to the kid. Sometimes the voices seem the same. Get them to make these. Traffic lights. Teacher, stop. I need help. Teacher, keep going. It's very interesting. Okay, teacher, I'm a little confused. So get them engaged in the classroom. If they don't have cards, they can actually use their color pencils, pens, anything, crayons lying around. This is actually going to make the learning more engaging. 1 minute. It's a sample form which is here in front, and all the sentences do not need to be used, but this is great for students from year 7 to grade 10. What are the 2 or 3 or 5 or most significant or central or useful or meaningful or disturbing things that they learned in the lesson today? What questions are there still in the mind? What do they still have? What do they want to ask? What was the most interesting part, or what was the least interesting part that they did not understand? Get them engaged in their learning. In 1 minute, they can actually unmute themselves, share it online, or actually write it in the chat box. Key ideas. When you're teaching them a topic, what are the key or central ideas that that you as a teacher want them to take back after the class? Ask them to write the key ideas themselves. So they need to read the text carefully and need to actually engage on their cognitive thinking. What was the author teaching them? What was the author's perspective? Infer the author's sentences. What was the main idea or the central idea of the short story? Three W's. What? Students discuss and write what did they learn today? What was the relevance or importance or useful thing from the text? And in the end, now what? We've done the reading. Now what are we going to do? Now we're going to predict. This is going to actually affect the direct thinking of a student and ask them, how does this fit into their learning? Tapple effect. Teach first. If cognitively, guide through a lesson. Define the problem of the lesson. Ask a question. Pause. Pick a non-volunteer, especially the ones who have the camera switched off or don't talk during the whole time. Take their name. Listen for a response and wait for an effective feedback. Give students an opportunity to make their voice heard by asking for feedback on the online learning experience, the content or the context of what they are reading. Dig deeper, dive deeper. If a student feels a lesson is too basic, allow them to skip over it or bring in their own research or learning. Choral response from a small group of students. Top show panel. This is the most engaging thing on television. Inform the students a day ahead. Tell them this small group of experts are going to debate on the finer points of having longer breaks, of coming to school later in the day, leaving early. So inform the students that it's going to be a speaking and listening activity in class. Move them away from writing. Tell them it's going to be a jingle lesson. Sell it to us, just the way they see songs and jingles for different ads on television. For example, Knorr ads, Kokomo ads. Get them to explain the main idea of the lesson in a form of a song or a jingle. Making a visual of the last lesson. That means a lesson that they did a day earlier, a day before. So brainstorm the previous lesson. Students represent visually what they learned in the last lesson in a form of a diagram or a mind map. Make them to draw on the many whiteboards. Majority will not actually know how to draw a mind map, but this is where the novelty aid of memorization walks in. The teacher can draw it for them, share it with them, and she can do it by sharing their screen. Explain, this is one way for getting the students to explain to their peers. They compare their points and they add it to theirs. So this is an important part of their learning. Pair, share, sharing ideas. Admit and exit slips. Great way to start and end a lesson. These are small examples. 3, 2, 1. It's most of my favorite. 3 new things that you learned in the text today, 2 interesting things or new vocabulary, and 1 question that you still have. So it's a great way. 3, 2, 1. Emojis. Leave an emoji at the end of a lesson in the chat box. How did the students feel about the lesson today? It could be with a smile, could be sad, could be neutral. They don't have a feeling for the lesson. Prompts that emphasize the process of learning. Examples like, I would learn more about, please explain more of that. The thing that surprised me the most today was, I wish. Get them to make a choice. Kids love choices. Give them a choice. If you were the teacher for the day, how would you teach this lesson online? At the end, give them examples. Discuss how today's lesson would be used in the real world. For example, if they want to do letter writing, email writing, most kids would say, why do we need to write an address when we are doing email writing? So get them to think how this lesson of letter writing will help them engage in real world learning. These are some small, very small examples of admit or exit slips. They can circle one and they can share their own ideas, what lesson it took place, what was the date, and this can be saved, right? In the end, thank you so much. I know when students become more engaged in a learning experience, they get more out of the lesson and they will come back more for this online learning. It gives them a sense of purpose, it gives them a sense of participation, and it engages them completely in the whole class. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reem, for sharing such engaging activities with us. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of teachers in enhancing student engagement in their classrooms. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please feel free to write to us. We would like to know about what specific topics or tools you would like us to present on in future. So write to us on eteacher@evolution.com.pk. Till our next webinar, happy teaching and learning.